Hey everybody, Tekking101 here, and this is going to be a very special episode because today is my 20th birthday. Now Oh yes, okay, calm down. Yes, we all know I am just amazing beyond reproach. It's just something that's just occurring. My birthday should be a massive celebration. They should erect a golden statue in my visage that will, I don't know, that will light up the night sky for 5 full days straight. That is the bare minimum that I require. Instead, you want to know what I got? A new one of these! Yeah! You know, like the last one got killed by my smart self, and I got another one! Yeah. Anyway, okay, so, Bleach chapter number 535. Getting up there, getting really up there. I wonder what chapter they're gonna cap it off at. Maybe, I don't know, knowing Kubo, like chapter 666, that'd just be awkward. That would make so much sense, though, if it ended there, but whatever, that's neither here nor there. Okay, so we open up, and the first couple pages of this chapter are obviously something that Kubo was very happy about, because it's all blackness. As I freefall, the silence in this hole is deafening, a muted, cold abyss. I'm also naked for some reason, but it's also calming in a sense. Perhaps maybe I'm falling into the void of my soul that'll discover the true meaning of life and existence as the way that... Well, I guess this is what I get for not wearing proper protection when fighting against a hollow. Ah, see what I did there? Proper protection in the sense that she didn't wear reishi armor when fighting against Shiro. I mostly got the idea because last chapter somebody referred to Shiro as a walking STD. Seriously though, wrap it before you tap it. If you're not ready to have a kid, then don't have a kid. Moving on. Bleach chapter 535. Everything but the rain, OP8. Defenders. Just one small little thing about this, and I'm probably way far off, but the title of the chapter, when it says everything but the rain OP8, behind the title card we see a raindrop falling to the ground. Now, if you remember way back when everything but the rain OP1, the original back in 528 started, you remember that title card looked almost exactly the same except with a raindrop still falling. So, if I were to extraordinarily look into the symbolism here, I would say this would be the last one, but then again, that might just be pure coincidence, but knowing Kubo, that's probably on, you know, that's probably there for a reason, but I'm probably just overanalyzing just a little raindrop. Okay, so, before we get any further into this chapter, I need to tell you something. I need to bring something up, and I need you to understand this, because this is not a problem I'm going to bring up. Some people were complaining there was way too much text in this chapter. Other people were loving it, where people saying, oh man, this chapter finally explained everything. Here's the thing you gotta understand about how Kubo does things. When you compare the way Kubo writes chapters and how he reveals exposition, it's very different from how, say, Oda does it in One Piece, or how Naruto does it in Naruto. Let's look at Naruto, for example. Okay, Naruto is right in the middle of a war arc right now. That does not mean, though, there's non-stop fighting. Characters will stop, and we'll have inner monologues, and we'll discover something. The Tailed Beast, for example. Like, you know, we saw the big fight with the Tailed Beasts when they were fighting against Naruto, and then we had a couple chapters of exposition on what the Tailed Beasts really were, what their names were, stuff like that. So it didn't really stop the action, but it gave us information while kind of keeping the action going. That's not exactly how Kubo does it. Normally, how he'll do it, and he's done it before, is he'll have a bunch of chapters filled with action, or this happened in Turn Back the Pendulum, a bunch of chapters filled with just action and just little foreshadowing bits sprinkled throughout about what will come. And near the end, we'll just get a huge exposition chapter. That's what I like to call it. Just a chapter where there's no action, it's just pure speech and text of one character or 2 or 3 characters just explaining everything. This is exactly what happened in Turn Back the Pendulum. Turn Back the Pendulum, I think it lasted, what, 10 or 11 chapters? Well, I think for like 8 or 9 of those chapters, it was just setting up the characters and, you know, them going out and the whole problem with the Hollowification and everything. And then in like chapter 10 or 11, it was just Aizen appearing and explaining to Shinji everything about what he was doing and what they were and what his experiment was. And that's all it was. That was the exposition chapter. And then we had the epic climax with Urahara. Kind of the same thing here. So I'm not going to quote every single line, otherwise we'd be here forever. I'm just going to give you my rough summary of what Urahara is explaining to Ryukin and Ishinn here on how to save Masaki's life, okay? That's just how Kubo does it. Okay, so first thing, Ryukin and Ishinn arrive at the Urahara shop. Right away, they ask who he is because they have no idea. I was a little bit, you know, disappointed by this because I thought, oh, maybe Ishinn heard about Urahara, whatever. Urahara explains that they give him his name, and they explain to them that he's been researching Hollowification research for 100 years, and he was exiled from the Soul Society for that reason. Now, we can see that Ishinn clearly, maybe did not know him, but he certainly heard the legends, okay? I would assume that a once captain that was apparently partaking in Hollowification research, which is like really taboo shit, then got expelled. I'm sure there'd be a lot of hearsay and rumor about him amongst the Goatee 13, so it would make perfect sense why Ishinn would have heard about him, but we don't get to go into that much because Ryukin interrupts and saying, hey, I don't care who you are, I don't care what you did, doesn't matter to me. If you can save Masaki, do it. I love this shit right here, I really do. First off, this shows that Ryukin truly does care about Masaki. You know, then again, he was completely honored, he was completely ready to resign their personal feelings for each other just to continue the species, just to continue the Quincy species. I mean, it was always kind of debatable, like, well, I mean, from what he said to Katagiri a couple of chapters ago, it's like, Ryukin's not really in love with Masaki in that way. He just needs to know he needs to get married to her, otherwise the Quincy's it's gonna die out. So it's good to see that he at least cares about her in that sense. Kind of like, I would say more sisterly than anything else, even though they're cousins. So, you know, he doesn't care about what Urahara is. He doesn't care about, you know, his history in the Soul Society. All he cares about right now is making sure Masaki lives. That's the only thing on his objective. We don't get really much of Ishin's rebuttal on this, but I'm assuming from what we'll see later, Ishinn will have the same thing, where he's just kind of standing back and just being like, oh, okay, you're that dude, shit, okay. Okay, well, alright, you can fix Masaki, but I don't know. I mean, he's never met Urahara, so he doesn't really know two sides of the story here. Okay, so although Ryukin asks Urahara to cure her, Urahara states that although it is possible to save Masaki's life, as in not making sure she won't die, there is no way she can go back to the way she was. And then this is where we get into the big exposition. He lays it down on this extraordinarily lengthy explanation of exactly what Hollowification is, the different phases of Hollowification, and the cure for it. Alright, so basically, here's how it goes. When a hollow soul is injected into a normal person's soul, the boundary that separates them gets broken down, and this is, in a sense, to upgrade their power. Alright, simply, this is very basic. Just imagine a scale. You know, a scale. So we have, you know, the balance of, let's just say, Masaki's human soul on both sides. Hollow powers come in, and that makes one side heavier than the other, disrupts the balance, causes the whole thing to go out of whack. He goes into further detail of how this process was originally started to be just a way to upgrade a Shinigami's power. I don't know if he's going into explanation on Aizen's research. He's probably not, because Aizen wanted to do something all different altogether. But remember, Urahara did have the Hogyoku. That's the reason he made the Hogyoku. He was trying to maybe add hollow energy into Shinigami to boost their powers, to break through that wall. Aizen just wanted to go a little bit further with it. He wanted to create a whole army, and, you know, Aizen had that whole god complex thing. I think Urahara was just like, I want to see if I can do this, just to see if I can do this, and maybe it might benefit the Soul Society in a way. He kind of ended up fucking it over in the end, but you know. But he states that the main problem here is they only tested this shit on Shinigami, not on Quincy's. This is like a completely new thing altogether. So he's kind of, you know, confused by that, because he doesn't even really know what the effects are going to happen on Masaki, because the only thing he's known so far is Hollowification experiments on Shinigami. He goes on to reference the effects that the Visors had when they were introduced to Hollowification, and how eventually, because the scales are so out of whack, eventually the whole thing would just collapse and break, and that is a process referred to as soul suicide. Soul suicide, huh? Kind of sounds like one of those, like, intervention type shows. Hi everybody, I'm Soul Eater. It's been about 5 weeks since I was attacked by a Hollow, and it's pretty rough. I think I've gotten over the dark patches, but I'm doing good. I'm living every day as it goes by, and I think I'm really going to make a good recovery, but other days are kind of tough. My god, that was a dark sketch! I mean, I thought it would be funny. I'd be like, oh, soul suicide. It's funny because it's Soul Eater, and I never get a chance to use this damn site, and I'm recording it, and I'm like, I hope there's nobody out there that, like, anybody that's been actually in therapy for that, for, like, suicide or something. That might actually be kind of offensive. Huh. Sorry if it was. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. Anyway, so Urahara arrives to the main point that he got to, that over 100 years of research, which once again even throws off the whack of what time this took place, because he was exiled he was exiled from the Soul Society 100 years before the current storyline. Alright, so that means 100 years, I mean, I guess he's just rounding up, but I'm just saying, if Kubo threw something like 90 years, 80 years, that would have given us some, maybe a little bit more specific, but 100 years, I guess he could be rounding up, but that might throw it off. But anyway, we get to the main point of the chapter, and something that we didn't know. Up to this point, he's basically been restating stuff to Ryukin and Ishinn, stuff that we kind of already knew about Hollowification, just in greater detail. Here's the stuff we really need to know. How is it cured? He states that if you insert something that's conflicting to the opposing power of the Hollow into the soul, then that will cease the soul suicide process. It will not cure the soul. It will not, like, completely erase Hollowification. It'll just stop the soul from killing itself. So going back to the scale thing again, you know, the Hollow powers throw it out of whack to the normal powers of whatever you are, Quincy, Shinigami, whatever, let's just say Quincy in this case. So if you insert something into the equation that's opposite of what it is, it'll go back to being even. You'll still have the Hollow powers, and you'll also have to deal with whatever you inserted into your soul, but your soul will be balanced out again. So it's more like, your soul's usually like a 1-to-1 ratio, and then it became a 2-to-1 ratio, and then to save it, you need to go to like a 2-to-2 ratio. See what I mean? It's still balanced, it's just a little more out of whack. It's just more stuff added to it. Oh, and Ishinn is not understanding a single lick of this, by the way, although Ryukin does realize something pretty horrific by what Urahara just stated. He does go on to say that the mortality rate of this process is 0%, so gotta give credit to Urahara there. You must be the first person to invent a medicine that has a 0% fatality, 0% failure rate. You know, even medicines that we have in present day, even, you know, you have a cold and you go buy some cold medicine, even that shit does not have a 100% success rate. Hell, go and buy freaking Purell. You ever buy that little hand sanitizer Purell? You know what it always says? It kills 99.99999% of germs. Everyone's afraid to say 100% because as soon as that implies it'll work on anything, but Urahara, he's good to go. He should work for MedLife. Okay, however, this will only stop the soul suicide process. If you want the soul to live a somewhat normal life and to stay stabilized, the thing that's counteracting it would have to stay and remain with that individual forever. Ryukin freaks out about this because apparently he realizes that the opposite of a Quincy would in fact be a Shinigami, and then here the gears start turning. The only way they would be able to save Masaki is if Ishinn's Shiba were to stay by her side or give up his Shinigami powers and have them inserted into Masaki. Now, Ishinn, from Ryukin's perspective at this point, is just a Shinigami that Masaki risked her life to protect. Ryukin doesn't know anything about him, and from his perspective, he does not know anything about them. So that's why he's so pissed off. It's like, no, there's no way this random Shinigami who knows nothing about Masaki, knows nothing about Quincy, knows nothing about this shit, is going to sacrifice possibly his life and his powers just to save this one girl. And that's why Ryukin's pissed off, because there's nothing he can do about it. He's just a Quincy. He can't help Masaki at all, and that's probably also screwing him up. Urahara then reveals to Ishinn the type of gi guy that himself, and he gave Rukia, and he gave Tessai 1 and the visors, the type of gi guy that will eventually drain your Shinigami powers completely and make you essentially human. He gives us a quick recap on exactly what that does, and he states that if you decide to go through with this, you will be forever opposite her, and that most likely in the process he will lose his Shinigami powers. Although he doesn't say 100% he's going to lose his Shinigami powers, not like when Ichigo was training with Zangetsu, for example. Zangetsu said, you use this technique, you're losing your powers. Urahara's not 100% sure on this, but he can pretty much guarantee you're probably not going to be a Shinigami much after this. Reishi strings bind souls. They're extremely strong. As long as they're connected to you, you'll never be able to leave the confines of the shell. It won't be until the Hollow and the girl are free from the Reishi string that you'll be able to exit the shell. Which means... Can we just do this already? Okay, fine, I'll do it, whatever. Give me the freaking operating table. Okay, and now we get to, I feel kind of childish for this, but at the same time, because this chapter kind of lacked in any kind of humor or action, this one scene that right after Ishinn just agrees to it, like, flatly, he doesn't even have any freaking questions, he just agrees to it. We get these hilarious caricatures of Urahara and Ryukin. I just love Ryukin's especially, because I think we've seen Urahara like that before. Just Ryukin, who is just always this steadfast, serious-ass character, and he's drawn like that. It's just hilarious, because look at this from this perspective. This is like explaining to someone, like, okay, look, yeah, this girl that you have no idea who, like, you don't know anything about her, you have hardly any connection to, you only met one time, she's gonna need a kidney transplant, okay? So we basically need to take your kidney out of your body, and you need to, okay, fine, we'll do it. Like, don't you want to hear about the risks at all? I mean, that's a kidney. This is a serious medical I don't care. Let's just do it. I got nothing else going on until 5 o'clock. Just get it done by then. Like, that's essentially what they're doing with, and that's just how they're shocked by the fact he just agrees to this freaking thing. Also, he states that Urahara needs to work more on his speeches. Yeah, I think that's Kubo's psyche speaking, like his subconscious speaking to him there. He's like, Kubo's writing this chapter, he's just like at the very end, his subconscious is like, you should have explained this more concretely and not cram it all into one chapter. Wait, what was that? Eh, whatever, I'll draw funny caricatures. And once again, I know this is just the manga stream translation, but I just love how Ishinn agrees to it even further. He's like, what are we standing around here dicking around for? It's the only way we can do it, so let's do it. He goes on about the regrets that he would have in this situation, but once again, he doesn't care. In his eyes, Masaki saved his life. He needs to repay her by saving her life. Even, fair deal, that's what I love about Ishinn's character. With that all being said, let's commence the operation.
Here we go! Wait, what if this hurts? What if this really hurts? Oh, I didn't think of that.
Oh, it will. Believe me, it will.
Are you just saying that, or is it really gonna hurt? You're just saying that, aren't you? You're just, no, you're not. It is gonna hurt, isn't it? Exactly how painful are we talking? Ah!
So last page of the chapter, we cut back to the Black Void, where Masaki was about to being swallowed by Shiro's seed, I guess, to which Ishinn arrives on the scene. Yo, your knight in shining armor has arrived. That's great that you saved my life and everything, but I'm kind of naked right now, and you're kind of have my hand on... Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, I just, I'm going to be hanging out in your soul for a couple of years, so I just thought, I'd go with it. Yeah, I know, but... I'm going to get you know you first. Maybe you go to get some coffee or something. Yeah, okay, maybe if everything works out, okay, we can even get married and have 3 kids together. What? Nothing. Alright, so that's the end of the chapter. Like I said, very heavy on the dialogue, but it is good dialogue. I'm not complaining about the chapter being heavy on dialogue. That's just how Kubo does things. I've just learned to accept it at this point. But in any case, this would be, a good spot to end the flashback. I would not want it to end here, because there's still a bunch of shit we don't know about how, in theory, we could, because them getting married, them having Yuzu, Karin, and Ichigo, that's a given. We don't really need to know much more about that. We need to know more about Grand Fisher, although how that whole thing worked, how Masaki apparently died, but then again, that might just be in a whole different flashback altogether. So in this sense, I'm saying that this was a pretty solid chapter. We got to learn more, but we got a recap on Hollowification. Urahara pretty much explained it in great detail, all of his research he's been doing by this point, so I'm pretty content with this chapter. I enjoyed it. So as for next chapter, if the flashback is indeed over, we would probably cut back to the present, and Ichigo and Ishinn would probably just have, swap questions back and forth. Like, Ichigo would probably have a bunch of questions, it's like, okay, well, what happens now? What happens now? Like, did Mom lose her Quincy powers because of this? Because that was never expressly stated. Or maybe it was, and I just skipped the sentence because it was a long read. But, it's like, from what I've learned about this, because Ishinn was there, Masaki might be able to live a normal life with her Quincy powers, or maybe she just lost them altogether, or maybe she just, didn't use them in the presence of Ichigo in them, like, same reason for that. The only problem I have with the chapter is it kind of contradicts what the general belief was to how Ishinn lost his powers. If you remember way back in Deicide number 8 or 9, whichever it was, when Ishinn was training Ichigo, he stated, on the topic of the final Getsuga show, he stated, our Zanpakutos really don't like to teach us these techniques. My Engetsu was the same way. That implied right there that that Ishinn learned the final Getsuga show, used it against some enemy, and that's how he lost his powers. From this chapter, we don't directly see it, but we're led to believe that's how he lost his powers. So, I guess in a sense, there's a way around this. We can just say that, oh, Ishinn tried to learn the final Getsuga show, but Engetsu did not teach it to him, or he just never successfully learned it, or he learned it, but he never used it. I guess that's the sense we could use right there. That's just really the only whole that really immediately jumped in my mind in terms of plot when I was reading the chapter. But hopefully, if the flashback arc ends, next chapter we'll get more exposition on Ishinn explaining and answering Ichigo's questions if he has any, and then maybe we'll go all the way back to Juha and the Soul Palace. Yeah, I feel kind of misplaced with the Soul Palace thing. It's just like, Ichigo, you're gonna go to the Soul Palace, you're gonna learn all these cool techniques, you're gonna get a new sword, you're gonna kick Juha's ass, and then like halfway through he's just like, oh, you're not good enough. A little bit disconcerting there, but we'll go back to that eventually. And yeah, so everyone, thanks for watching. Tekking101 signing out, guys. Oh, and thanks for all the birthday wishes. I got a shit ton of those on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. If you said that, thank you. Thanks to everybody who sent me one of those. Really just... I've gotten more this year than last year, and then last year I got a bunch. So I just want to say that waking up to Facebook and having like 50 plus, you know, happy birthdays on my fan page and my actual page. That's just great to wake up to. So you guys help me out a lot. Thanks, guys. You're the inspiration.